Greetings everybody, learning objective 2 for the Age of Expansion and Conquest. So you want to discuss how the objectives, finding a direct route to the Orient, through a three-step process happened. This is where you want to bring in some of your assigned reading also, offering specific examples of this process. And be sure to understand the term mercantilism too. So you have the first step, which is the sea captains, who were responsible for geographical expansion, what was out there, such as Gama, Columbus, Magellan. These men made the major discoveries of the new continents and trade routes. Second came the conquerors, and sometimes these were one and the same, sea captains and the conquerors. They were the first wave of settlers who were responsible for political expansion, controlling through violence what was newly discovered by Western Europeans. This is exemplified in the many wars of the English, of the Dutch, the French, the Spanish, and the Portuguese that were enacted on the native people living there. We know of the famous ruthless conquistadors like Cortez, who laid the foundation for a vast European empire by overwhelmingly flourishing native cultures in the New World. And third came the task of exploiting what had been found, or commercial expansion. This was usually done by the use of joint stock companies, or by the use of royal offices who were used to replace the conquerors. This third phase, which developed during the Age of Expansion, would be modified into a new economic philosophy called mercantilism. Mercantilism, take note of this. Mercantilist policies were adopted by countries in order to gain economic unity and control, and to achieve national and international power. There were two basic ways in which this was done. The first objective was the acquisition of much gold and silver as possible. The importance of money was emphasized because of its growing use in trade and business, and established a country as a military power. And if a country did not have mines from which to draw on, the bullion, as the gold and silver was called, it was deemed necessary to have a favorable balance of trade as the second alternative, and this is what would happen to Great Britain. So this meant encouraging industry and agriculture in order that a nation would be dependent upon would not be dependent upon foreign manufactured goods or products. The raw materials which were unavailable at home might be obtained from colonies, as was the case in the third and final stage of the Age of Expansion and Conquest. So mercantilistic policies also called for a large shipping industry, a strong protective navy, and control over exports and imports of its colonies. So you would have laws to enforce mercantilistic policies, in other words. Competing imports were restricted. That means other empires weren't allowed to trade. And exports of finished products were encouraged in order to bring in a cash balance. So colonies then became important not only as locations of gold and silver mines, but as suppliers of raw materials and purchasers of finished products manufactured in the mother country. So in conclusion, mercantilism, not a direct route to the Orient, became the main objective of European nations by the time they had reached the third phase of the Age of Expansion. For England, which is our main concern for this course, this occurred about 1650 with the passage of the Navigation Act of that year. So this map here shows basically what happens with mercantilism. You have rum being produced, being sent to Africa. You also have, wait, hold on one second here. wanted to show a more accurate, a more detailed map of mercantilism. So basically you have the colonies being established from the early 1600s, throughout the 1600s, and they, England is came here just like the rest of the European colonies. They came here to find gold and silver, but when the lands that they chose or happened to begin to settle were areas of the world that didn't have a lot of gold, didn't have a lot of silver, so they had to produce products. And what they would do is they would produce these raw materials like whale oil, lumber, furs, rice, silk, indigo, tobacco, sugar, molasses, wood, in these different areas in which they were colonizing, and send them back to England, where they were turned into manufactured goods and sent back down to their colonies to be purchased in these areas by the people inhabiting it here. Also, people would purchase it living here, and people would also purchase it down here in Africa as well, as they were beginning to infiltrate Africa during this time. So you can look at the rest of the map to get a sense of how mercantilism worked in other products and how it was shipped to Africa and shipped back. But basically, this is the name of the game. This is the early stages of a institutionalized capitalism and and the real beginning stages of what will become known as globalization. That concludes Learning Objective 3. I will see you guys on Learning Objective 3. Did I say 2 before? Anyway, I'll see you guys on Learning Objective 3. Take care. See you in class. Bye.